All right, I'm back for day 27. I actually got in 6 films today, which was pretty good. I recovered over the last 2 days and managed to do some power watching. First up was 2018 Ganjam Haunted Asylum. This is a South Korean film shot at an actual abandoned psychiatric hospital in South Korea, which apparently I think CNN or Travel Channel did some kind of show saying it was one of the freakiest places in the world to go. I mean, this is basically grave encounters. This is kind of a grave encounters, Asian grave encounters. It's a found footage, shaky cam, jump scare movie. Um, and I mean, for some reason they just don't do anything for me. So I give it a 4 out of 10. It's not scary. I mean, the shaky cam thing is just bad, and it doesn't. People looking frightened with the shaky cam on their face and shadows and things like that. I mean, to make a whole movie like that, maybe you do 1 or 2 scenes with that kind of concept, but when you just build a whole movie around it, I mean, whether it's Grave Encounters or this one, I don't know, doesn't rock my boat. It's I just find it kind of tedious and annoying. I give it a 4 out of 10. The background production to this is more interesting than the film because apparently the owner of this psychiatric hospital sued to try to stop the film coming out because he was concerned it would affect his ability to sell the building, which I thought was interesting. There's no special features on this puppy. It's just the film itself. Showbox. This is a Showbox release. Next up is a low-budget indie film, Psychos in Love, which I've been wanting to see. This is a beautiful, as once again, Vinegar Syndrome knocks it out of the park with their... Look at that array of special features. Of course, I haven't even started to break into that. I watched the film. This is kind of a horror comedy. You've got 2 serial killers that meet up and fall in love. And so they kind of participate implicitly and otherwise with helping one of the other kill off and satisfy their need to just kill people. And of course, it's all done in the context of kind of some dark humor, a la kind of Herschel Gordon Lewis type humor. It's fun. It's a fun movie. I thought they did a pretty good job with it. Not bad at all. I give it a 7.5 I give it a 7 out of 10. I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's entertaining enough. I definitely can't wait to check out the special features on this one. Then I went back to a film I've seen a couple times. This is the 2017 release of Terrifier, which is another low-budget independent film. Of course, this comes from All Hallows Eve. The character here, they decided to make a whole film based on that one episode in his appearance in the film. He's got a whole film set around him. This is kind of, to me, this is, and I've watched this 4 or 5 times. I mean, it's 2 films. I think it just doesn't know what it wants to be. The first 45 minutes are genuinely unnerving. Particularly the pizza parlor where the clown is kind of just staring at these 2 girls. The clown makeup and I think the acting of this guy that plays the clown was great. But then it just kind of goes off into some just over the top. The last half of the film was just this over the top gore and silliness and chasing that. I mean, maybe that would have been fine if that was the intent of the film, but it kind of was off-putting when you watch the first 45 minutes, and then we switch gears to kind of just over the top silliness. I mean, a person gets hung upside down and cut in half. It's just the gore and everything is just. It's not bad. The last half's not bad either. It's just kind of off-putting and jarring because I was kind of immersed into a very dark, build-up, tension-building type movie, and then it just switches to 180 degrees. So Yeah, it just still bothers me. The whole thing just still bothers me. But it's not a bad film. I give it a 6 out of 10. Then I went to a classic, and this is The Lost Boys, 1987, I believe. Val Kilmer, not Val Kilmer. What am I saying? Not Val Kilmer. Kiefer Sutherland. She's Val Kilmer. Well, he looks. I mean, really, with the mullet and all, Val Kilmer. It was kind of that time. He looks a little like him, but yeah, Kiefer Sutherland was like 18 years old when he made this film. Of course, you got Corey Haim, and you've got the kids from the Goonies in this thing. It's a fun film. It's not one of my favorites, mainly because I don't like the portrayal of vampires. I think the director, and I listened to the commentary track, by the way, and the director was pretty clear that he was trying to do something new and unique with the mythology of the vampires, which I appreciate. I mean, I think that's good. I mean, the tried and true formulas have been beaten to death. For example, instead of coffins, the Lost Boys sleep upside down like bats in a cave. That's a cool idea. And the acting is good. You know, there's actually more comedy than I realized from the initial viewings. And I think the other, which kind of, I don't know. I think they should have just played it straight. But the comedy, it's another one where you've got horror and comedy mixed in, which kind of makes an uneasy marriage at times. But I do like the film. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I don't love it. I much prefer I much prefer other variations of the horror vampire genre than this. The portrayal of the vampires is just a little bit too young teenish kind of thing. I think if I'd have, and I mean, I grew up in this time as a young 20-something, but this film just never resonated with me when I was younger, actually. So I think if it had gotten into my DNA, kind of like Hammer horror films, maybe I would just worship it like other people do, but it just didn't hit me back then. But yeah, it's a fun film. Kiefer Sutherland's great in it. I can't debate anybody that thinks this is a great film, because in many respects it is. This is a triple pack. It's got Lost Boys, The Tribe, and then The Thirst. Then I went to the well with an interesting, sleazy film from the late 70s, Driller Killer. Driller Killer is, comes out at a time when it mixes punk rock with just gratuitous violence. You've got a guy that's a failed artist, and he is he basically kind of, the way I see it after watching it many times, he essentially goes nuts over time. And some of it has to do with the fact that his neighbor is just constantly playing punk rock music all the time. And it's just affecting his brain, and he's obviously slipping as an artist. Some of his portraits and things are not selling. He's created this portrait of a buffalo that the guy that usually buys his stuff says it's total shit, and so he just goes off he picks an electric drill, which we're not going to get into the technicalities of the fact that he's running around the streets with an electric drill, killing people. The fact is, I mean, at some point the thing's going to run out of power, particularly when you're trying to go through metal, and when you're trying to go through bone and things like that. I mean, maybe you got enough power to actually penetrate one person, but yeah, it's a hilarious, it's silly, over the top gore. This is another one that made the Video Nasties list. I'm not quite sure why, because it's really, other than say the last 30 minutes, it's mainly just a kind of an expose into the New York punk scene that was huge back then. it was just it was the New York I tell you one thing, the best thing about this film is it really gives you a feel for New York and the grimy part of New York back in the late 70s. I really enjoyed that part of it. A lot of interviews and special features. I've actually got another Blu-ray of this. This is the Arrow Steelbook, which I'm not a big fan of Steelbooks, but I just on a whim decided I'd go ahead and pick this up. Of course, there's a lot of Abel Ferrara background on it. There's a commentary track and an interview with Abel Ferrara. He's an interesting avant-garde, exotic character too. As is the film is just a bizarre film. And last but not least is Ghost of Maynak. And this is an Asian Extreme release. This is another film that kind of gets bogged down with too much with the CGI. The CGI in this one was off-putting to me. It's a ghostly. It's another ghostly. That's also tied to kind of a love story. Basically, this guy through this dead woman has come back through his girlfriend. It's actually a couple that's dead, that's actually been, it almost plays almost like a reincarnation, because the two characters that died years before have the same name as the current characters, and so the ghostlies kind of reappear through the modern day living beings. More of a love story than anything else, but with a lot of jump scares and CGI. Not bad. I definitely want to check out the special features when I get a chance. There's one. I mean, there's a featurette and a making of. So there you go with that. This was part of an Asian Extreme box set that I have. I think I showed it off in a previous update. All right. Well, that'll do it for day 27. Thanks for watching.